Couple of weeks ago, our house did not feel like a well designed Christian family culture. It felt like barely controlled chaos. It was a Wednesday night. I had to be at a meeting an hour away. One of our twins was getting home from high school softball and really itching to get to church. Our other twin had volleyball practice, and our younger daughter also wanted to go to church, but pick up a couple of friends along the way. Sometimes on Wednesday nights, our minivan feels like the flipside church bus, and Holly was left holding this whole logistical web by herself. And our son, poor kid, was getting dragged all over town as collateral damage. Hi, I'm Dan Hayden, and this is episode 33 of the Positive Legacy Podcast. This week's episode is titled 3 Steps to Move Your Family Out of Survival Mode. If you've been with me for a while, you know that we've spent a lot of time working on your inner world as a dad. We've talked about triggers, those moments when your kids or your wife, they just sort of hit something old and your reaction is way bigger than what the moment calls for. We've talked about mental fitness and saboteurs like the judge, the controller, and the avoider, and how to shift from fear and anger into your sage and your spirit-led self. We've talked about repair, what to do after you blow it, and about spiritual leadership in tiny 30-second practices that actually fit your life. Recently, we zoomed out and started looking at patterns, that loop of trigger, reaction, fallout, distance, reset, repair, and how to interrupt it and repair inside of it. All of that has been about you changing, you becoming a calm and steady, spirit-led man in the middle of all the chaos of real life. This series is about what happens next. What happens when you start to change, but your home still feels like it's just barely surviving. When the schedule is insane, the van is full, and everybody's just bracing for the next thing. That Wednesday night I just talked about at our house, that was a perfect example. Even with all the inner work that I've done, we weren't exactly radiating peace. Our culture in that moment was not exactly calm and steady. It was this: do whatever it takes to get everybody where they need to be and just hope nobody melts down. You're going to have those nights. But in this episode, I want to do 3 things with you. First, name what just surviving actually looks like and feels like in your home right now, so you can see it clearly instead of just living inside of it. Second, I want to introduce a simple way of thinking about family culture that doesn't require you to add a bunch of Pinterest-worthy routines to your already insane week. And third, I want to give you a concrete challenge to start shifting away from survival mode toward a culture that your kids will one day describe with words you actually want to hear. Words like committed, safe, steady, fun, or even kind. Let's start with survival. A lot of us, home right now feels like a place where everything is built around logistics and constant fire drills. In the Army, we call this a react to contact battle drill. You're just walking along and then someone starts shooting at you. You have to react to that contact. Sometimes our lives definitely feel like that. You might recognize some of this too. Mornings that sound like, "We're late. Where are your shoes? I told you last night to put your homework in your backpack." Evenings that are a blur of practice drop-offs, quick dinners, church, homework, laundry. Got to get those uniforms cleaned again. And then at the end of the night, parents just collapse into bed. Or maybe it's technology battles that flare up between you and your kids. "Hey, could you please put the phone away?" "Hey, I told you already. No phones at the dinner table." By the time your head hits the pillow, you're not thinking, "I am carefully shaping the culture of my home." No, you're probably thinking, "Whew, we survived another day. Boy, it's been a week. And it's only Monday nights." Most of us, if we're honest, are not leading our homes right now. We are barely managing the chaos. And to be clear, a lot of that chaos is unavoidable. Life with kids is full. Work is demanding. If your kids are into sports or other activities, that calendar is going to be loud. If you're serving at church, that adds a whole nother layer. I'm not here to sell you a fantasy of slow, quiet evenings with nothing on the schedule. And to be frank, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably don't want that anyway. What I am here to do is draw a line between 2 different ways of living in that reality. One is what I'll call reactive survival. That's when your routines are totally dictated by whatever's loudest. The next notification, the next text, the next, "Dad, I need," you fill in the blank. They always need something, and that's okay. Or maybe it's the next ball field, the next email. The emotional climate in the house swings with whoever is the most stressed in that moment. On the other side is design culture. Same logistics, same practices, same youth group, same homework. But there is a clear sense of this is who we are as a family. And even on crazy Wednesday nights, we're going to show up in a way that reflects that. So what is family culture really? When I say culture, I don't mean a perfectly curated Instagram version of your life. I don't mean chalkboard schedules and color-coded calendars and a full family devotional every night. Family culture is simply this: a few deeply held values that show up in tiny, repeatable ways. It's the answer to questions like, what does it feel like to be in our house when we're all under pressure? How do we talk to each other when we're running late? What do we do when someone messes up? How do we treat people who are not in our immediate family? Friends, teammates, the kid getting dropped off in our Flipside church bus. If your kids were honest right now, how would they answer that question? How would they answer this question? What is our family like? Not how you hoped they would answer, how they'd actually answer. They might say, we're busy. We're always late. Dad can get intense. Mom is just holding everything together. We're a loud house. We're fun, but we're stressed. Those are cultural descriptors. When I asked myself that question about our own home, one word that came to my mind for what I want and what I'm still growing into was committed. I want my kids to know deep down in their bones, our family is committed. We're committed to God. We're committed to each other. We're committed to showing up even when it's hard. I'd love for them to say, it's not always calm, but mom and dad are committed. They keep coming back. They don't walk away when things are messy. That's a culture word. So how do you move from we're just surviving Wednesday nights to we are a committed family who shows up in a certain way on Wednesday nights? Let's bring back that pattern that we talked about before. Most of us are running a loop without realizing it. Something sets you off. That's the trigger. You react. Maybe your tongue gets sharp. You withdraw. You get sarcastic more than usual, or maybe you just clamp down and control. There's always some sort of fallout. The room tenses, or someone cries, somebody shuts down. Everyone pulls back a little. There's the distance. Life keeps moving. Dinner happens, practice happens, bedtime happens. That's the reset. And because no one really names what happened or repairs, that whole thing, it just repeats. Now layer that loop over your typical just surviving night. You can probably see it. On our chaotic Wednesdays, my trigger might be feeling late or out of control. Spoiler, it's all of it. My reaction might be snapping at whoever's closest or disappearing into logistics mode. Fallout is kids going quiet, Holly picking up even more mental load. Distance is everybody just powering through their own lane. And reset is falling into bed exhausted. If that's the pattern, then our culture on Wednesdays is basically, we are a family who survives by bracing, snapping, and numbing until it's over. And that's not the story I want my kids to tell someday. So the first move away from survival is not to overhaul your whole schedule. It's to see the loop and name the culture it's creating. You can do this in a couple of quiet minutes. Think of one recurring time in your week that feels like we're just surviving. It could be Wednesday nights or Sunday mornings before church. That time, that after work window between 5 and 7 p.m., mornings before school, or bedtime. Picture that time in as much detail as you can and walk through it in your mind like a movie. What tends to trigger you? Is it a look, the tone, the clock? Is it noise level? What do you normally do next? Do you go loud? Do you shut down? Do you start barking orders? What happens in the room when you do? How do your kids' bodies respond? How does your wife respond? How do you all reset? Do you repair? Or do you all just move on and pretend it didn't happen? When you look at that loop, what does it feel like when your current family culture is in that window? You might realize we are a hurry up family, or we're a don't talk about the hard things family, or we're a sarcasm is how we deal with stress kind of family. That's not about shame. That's about discernment. You're finally naming a culture that has been quietly naming you. The good news is this: culture is not fixed. It's not genetic. You are shaping it every day, whether you mean to or not, which means you can begin to shape it on purpose. When we talked about spiritual leadership and micro practices, I shared two very simple things that have quietly shaped a climate in our home. Most nights before sleep, I put my head on my pillow and I practice gratitude. I talked about this in a couple of episodes ago. I basically enter prayer and I thank God for whatever comes into my head from that day. And 9 times out of 10, I fall asleep before I even run out of things to thank him for. That habit has helped me wake up more in sage and less in survival mode. And when one of us comes home, Holly and I aim for a real 5-second hug. That tiny rhythm preaches we choose each other in the middle of clanging dishes and loud kids. That's family culture. Tiny, repeatable actions that tell a story. So here's where I want to land this first episode in the series for you. Today is not about fixing every loop or installing 10 new routines. Today is about naming and beginning to design your culture at the highest level. I want to invite you now. If you're driving, don't do it now. But I want to at least invite you to mentally catalog or think of 2 or 3 simple, this is who we are statements for your family. Not what you think you should say, what you genuinely want to be true, that you're willing to grow into and commit to over time. They might sound something like, in our family, we are committed to each other. We come back when things go wrong. In our family, we speak the truth and we repair when we hurt each other. In our family, we don't have to be perfect, but we do take responsibility. In our family, we choose kindness under pressure. And in our family, faith is woven into ordinary moments, not just on Sundays. Keep them short, keep them concrete. Try to avoid vague words like nice or good. Aim for things that your kids can feel, not just hear. Once you've named 2 or 3 of those, I want you to hold them up against the just surviving window that you picked earlier. Ask yourself, on a night like our Wednesdays, where everybody is going in different directions and the flip side church bus is fully loaded, what would it actually look like for us to be committed in that window? Maybe it's as simple as, we will not yell in the car on Wednesdays. If we're stressed, we'll say it calmly and we'll repair before bed. That's a start. Over the next 5 episodes, we're going to take those this is who we are statements and plug them into very specific parts of your life. How you move from rules to values your kids can actually feel. How you handle sibling conflict in a way that teaches your kids repair. How you rewrite your tech loop so screens don't run the house. How you anchor your week when everyone's schedule is completely insane. And finally, how you pull all that together into a new normal for your home. But for this week, your challenge is simple and foundational. Again, pick one recurring time in your week that just feels like survival. Map that loop in your head or on paper. Trigger, reaction, fallout, distance, reset. Second, write 2 or 3 this is who we are statements for your family. Words you would love to hear from your kids someday when they describe home. For me, committed is on that list. Third, ask yourself, if those statements were true, how would that one survival window feel even 10% different? You're not going to change everything in a week, but naming the culture you want is how you begin to walk toward it. If you want help doing this work along other Christian dads who are trying to raise adults, not just manage behavior, that's exactly what we do in my Positive Legacy Academy. We don't stay in theory. We talk about real Wednesday nights and real car rides and real softball seasons, and we practice showing up differently together. You can find the link for a free coaching call in the show notes. As you think about your own home, link to learn more about my coaching programs is in the show notes. And if you're feeling super motivated, there's also a link in there where you can book a free coaching call with me. We can get to know each other and we can figure out whether or not it'd be a good fit to work together. As you think about your own home this week, what are the 2 or 3 words you most want your kids to use one day when they describe what it was like to grow up with you? As always, until next time, stay rooted in grace, stay steady in mind and spirit, and keep building your positive legacy one small intentional moment at a time. Talk to you again next week.